Christians are one of the most persecuted groups in the world today, facing varying levels of discrimination, harassment, and violence in many societies. The reasons behind this persecution are complex and multifaceted, stemming from a combination of historical, cultural, and ideological factors. One major reason is the growing secularization and liberalization of Western societies, which has led to a decline in traditional Christian values and a rise in anti-Christian sentiment. As society becomes more accepting of alternative lifestyles and worldviews, Christians who hold to traditional beliefs and practices are increasingly seen as intolerant, bigoted, and out of touch with modern values. This perception is often fueled by media portrayals of Christians as narrow-minded and judgmental, which can create a climate of hostility and ridicule towards Christians. Additionally, the increasing influence of secular humanism and relativism has led to a rejection of absolute truth and moral standards, which are core tenets of the Christian faith. As a result, Christians who assert the uniqueness and exclusivity of their faith are viewed as intolerant and insensitive to other beliefs and cultures. Another factor contributing to Christian persecution is the rise of radical ideologies, such as Islamism and communism, which often view Christianity as a threat to their dominance and seek to suppress or eliminate it. In many Muslim-majority countries, Christians are persecuted for their faith, facing discrimination, violence, and even martyrdom. This is often justified by Islamist ideologies that view Christians as infidels or enemies of Islam. Similarly, in communist countries like China and North Korea, Christians are persecuted for their refusal to submit to the state's authority and ideology. The spread of radical ideologies through social media and other channels has also contributed to the global rise in Christian persecution, as extremist groups and individuals are able to disseminate hate speech and incite violence against Christians. The persecution of Christians is also closely tied to the issue of religious freedom, which is increasingly under threat in many parts of the world. In some countries, Christians are denied the right to worship, assemble, or express their faith freely, while in others, they face severe penalties, including imprisonment and torture, for practicing their faith. The lack of religious freedom is often justified by governments and extremist groups as necessary to maintain social order, national security, or cultural identity. However, this repression of religious freedom not only violates basic human rights but also undermines the very foundations of a free and open society. Furthermore, the global Christian community is often divided and ineffective in responding to persecution, with many Christians failing to speak out or take action to support their persecuted brethren. This lack of solidarity and advocacy has contributed to the silence and indifference that often surrounds Christian persecution, allowing it to continue unabated. The international community, including governments, NGOs, and human rights organizations, also bears responsibility for failing to adequately address and condemn Christian persecution. Despite the alarming rise in anti-Christian violence and discrimination, the issue often receives scant attention and priority, with other human rights concerns taking precedence. In conclusion, the persecution of Christians in society today is a complex and multifaceted issue, driven by a range of historical, cultural, and ideological factors. The growing secularization and liberalization of Western societies, the rise of radical ideologies, and the lack of religious freedom have all contributed to the increasing hostility and violence faced by Christians worldwide. It is imperative that Christians, governments, and the international community take a stand against Christian persecution, advocating for the protection of religious freedom and the right of Christians to practice their faith without fear of reprisal or discrimination. By speaking out against persecution and promoting greater understanding and tolerance, we can work towards a more just and equitable society where Christians and people of all faiths can live and worship in peace and dignity.